Hello, everyone. Welcome back to On Point Politics. And today I'm doing my latest forecast for the 2024 presidential election. Make sure to hit the like button and subscribe for more content just like this. As you know, if you guys have been regular viewers of the channel, right now I have Donald Trump winning in an electoral college landslide. Now, before you click away from the video, I'm going to give very concrete arguments as to why Donald Trump will more than likely win the electoral college by a landslide margin. We see in the national lead, he leads by 2.9 percentage points against incumbent President Joe Biden. Right now, Biden sits below 40%. All the third-party candidates are seemingly taking away votes from the incumbent president. That's usually how it tends to work. The incumbent party always suffers losses when there's a major third-party candidate. And on top of that, what's quite interesting is that incumbent approval ratings tend to determine what popular vote share they get in the national level, except the only problem is that when Clinton had a 54% approval rating in 1996, he only got 49% of the national popular vote because Ross Perot still was able to get around 8 or 9% compared to his 18% in 1992. And so with Biden, there's a lot of uncertainty of what his actual percentage could be. And Donald Trump has been underestimated in polling. In 2016, he won the popular vote, or excuse me, he lost it by 3.1%. Clinton is now ahead by 5.6 as of June 15, 2016, and as of June 15, 2020, Biden was up by 8.4 percentage points. Joe Biden only won the national popular vote by 4.8, and so 4.5, excuse me. And so now, looking at this election model I put together, I plugged in the RCP aggregate, I've plugged in the approval rating, as well as the difference in approval. So Donald Trump has an approval rating 3.2 points higher than Joe Biden. That's 7.7 points right of the nation, including here 7.4 points right of the previous election cycle results. We have the demographic pool, the polling averages, which were all recently updated. We have the 2016 results, the 2020 results, as well as the swing and trend from all of these single states as of right now. And what we'll see is something really interesting. This part of the model down here is Gold Crown Politics' model. He used this and he was able to predict the entire election correct last time. And we also have my model that was tested back to 2020. So this should have a very reasonable margin of error. I'd say around 5% plus or minus for each state would be the margin of error. So maybe Donald Trump doesn't win in a landslide. However, that is what my model is currently projecting right now. And to give you guys concrete proof that this could happen is when you look at the New York Times/Siena College poll, they have Donald Trump up 7 points in May. They asked that same group, who did you vote for in 2020? Biden was up by 3 points. He ended up winning the popular vote by 4.5. You adjust the error, it would be Trump plus 5.5. The model projection 7.2 within the margin of error of plus 3.5 percentage points. They also did this for the battleground states as well. You get the adjusted margins, and we can see Wisconsin, I have it as a 9.6 percentage point victory. The adjusted poll has him winning it by 6. Michigan, I have him winning it by 8. The adjusted poll's 5.2. Pennsylvania, 9.5. The adjusted poll's about 7. Nevada and the adjusted poll are actually exactly spot on with each other. Arizona is the one state where it is outside the margin of error, and Georgia's only off by about 2.6 percentage points compared to the adjusted poll models. And so that's what we see here. The results that I have in my forecast model are roughly similar to what would happen if you actually adjusted the polls accordingly to the error from before. In Wisconsin, Biden led in the average by 8.7% and only won by half a point there in 2020. And we're seeing very similar results when you poll the exact same group who answered this poll. Who'd you vote for in 2020? Their answer is Biden plus 7, which mimics the polling data from before, signifying that pollsters may have not fixed their polling data. And again, this is one pollster, but this is like the top 3 pollster in the entire nation. So if they haven't really fixed their polling data, who's to say that anyone else has? And some probably have, but the average has Donald Trump on net 11 points higher than what he was in 2020, which is a humongous difference. And so when you look at that, you can't deny that there are going to be humongous shifts. We see the safe red states: Utah, Idaho, Montana, Wyoming, North Dakota, South Dakota. Nebraska's third, Nebraska's first in the at-large vote. Kansas, Oklahoma, Missouri, Arkansas, Louisiana, Mississippi, Alabama, Tennessee, Kentucky, Indiana, West Virginia, South Carolina, Alaska, Florida, Texas, Iowa, Ohio, as well as the second congressional district in Maine. For the safe Democrat states, we have California, DC, Maryland, Massachusetts, and Vermont. That is literally it. For the likely Democrat states, we have Washington, Oregon, we have Hawaii, we have Connecticut, Delaware, Rhode Island, as well as New York. All of these states are narrowing up from 2020. These were all safe states in the previous election. Washington, about a 19-point victory last time. He's only up by around 8 points. We see in Oregon, he was up by 16 in 2020. Now he leads by 5.8. If we look at, for example, Connecticut, that state was almost a 20-point win, and now he's only up 9 in the state. All of these states were safe. Even New York is forecasted as a 9-point victory for Joe Biden when he won it by 23 points last cycle. And just to clarify, this model does not include any of the midterm results because you cannot extrapolate a midterm to a presidential election. There is a significant amount more of college educated voters that turn out in midterms. And since the data is so different, there's no incumbent president on the ballot. Theoretically, the name is not on the ballot. And so it is very hard to extrapolate a Senate or House, election to a presidential race because there are so many individual people and races going on at once that it's almost impossible for you to correlate them to a presidential election. In a presidential election, you have less than 5 candidates most of the time, usually two big party candidates, so that you can make some generalizations within the data because you only have two people running. When you have Senate races, you have about 38 individual races with two different, sometimes even more people going on. So it's very weird and not analytically savvy to extrapolate from a midterm. And now, once again, you're going to see Wisconsin, Michigan, Pennsylvania, North Carolina, Georgia. We see Arizona, Nevada are all in the likely Republican column as of right now. If we go to Nebraska second, that's even a 6.9 percentage point win for the former president. That gets him already to 313 electoral college votes. And we see Joe Biden still sits at 147. The lean Democrat states are Colorado, Illinois, New Jersey, and Maine at large. And I forgot to fill out Maine's first congressional district. Colorado, Illinois, New Jersey have a large, African American population, but also have a lot of white suburban voters as well as Hispanics in these states that are shifting to the right this cycle. And honestly, if Trump is polling at about 20% of the black vote, I can't see him getting under about 15, maybe even 14%. And when you look at demographics, it's just not a good look. I mean, he got 9% nationally in 2020. And if he's getting about 20%, 19, which is where I roughly have him right now, he is not going to end up losing Georgia. He's not going to lose North Carolina, nor Nevada, or even to an extent Pennsylvania, even before Michigan and Wisconsin, because Pennsylvania has a very large concentration of them in the Philadelphia area. And so that gets Trump to 313 electoral college votes. For the lean Republican states, we actually have New Mexico, Minnesota, Virginia, and New Hampshire, which brings Donald Trump to 345 electoral college votes to Joe Biden's 193. And something interesting to point out, Minnesota and Virginia, Donald Trump actually took the lead in the polling averages here. As of yesterday, he was actually able to take the lead in these states here in the polling averages. And now a bunch of liberal counterparts are saying, well, there's no way he's going to be able to pick them off. Well, we got to throw out the polls. But yet, if Biden was up, in a state like Michigan by 10, they'd be, doing tricks on the polls all day long. But the second the polls don't benefit them, that's when they say, oh, data doesn't matter anymore. Orange man bad, he's going to crumble on election day. That's not how this works. You got to stick to what you say on both ends. If the data showed Biden winning, by 9 points in the aggregate, I'd say, okay, Biden probably is favored to win, and it's probably still going to be a close race because that's what my model shows. If Biden actually leads the aggregate by about 10 percentage points, you do actually see a pretty competitive race. All of the states would be lean margins. Donald Trump would be leading in Georgia by 3.7. Wisconsin would be 2.5. North Carolina would be about 5. Nevada, 4.5. Michigan would be pretty competitive. It'd be close. And if Donald Trump was down in favorability, like about 10 percentage points, if he really was down by about that much, we would see, Arizona go Democrat. We'd see Georgia be tilt Republican. Colorado would be just a little bit more Republican. We'd have Michigan going almost about where it went in 2020. Nevada would still go Republican. You would have North Carolina being a 1.9 victory. Pennsylvania would go a little bit more than what it did before. And Wisconsin would be a 1.1 percentage point victory. Joe Biden would be winning the popular vote by around 3 percentage points. And so that's what you see there. If Donald Trump was actually winning the electoral college, or at least it was competitive, the polling data would look significantly different in all of these races. But now that Donald Trump essentially leads in Minnesota and Virginia in the polling averages, it is not that much of a shocker for him to try to contest those states. His internals probably look even better than what the public polling data even shows. And that's what we've seen. Minnesota, the polling, he's up in a poll in Minnesota by 4 percentage points in an internal, which shouldn't be happening to Biden. If this race was competitive as people are thinking it is, there should not be any poll with Trump leading Minnesota, because we never saw that in 2020 when he won the state by 7 percentage points. And so right now the polling data is looking bad. Biden's favorability is about 24 points worse than what it was on election day. And we see large demographics shifting to the former president as of right now. And this only spells an electoral college landslide for the former president. I know it sounds crazy, but when you look at all the data, you look at this pollster that, is basically the top 3 pollster in the nation, and they polled their same voters back for the 2020 states. And we see that their polling hasn't even changed for the most part. In Pennsylvania, Biden led by about 5 in the 538 aggregate. Biden leads here by 4. Nevada is the one that's different. In Nevada, Biden also led by about 5 points, but now it's a tie. But it still underestimates Democrats here. But even still, instead of it being plus 14, it's actually lining up exactly with my model as of right now, which is quite fascinating. In Georgia, Biden leads by 5 here. So the polling, for whatever reason, here is actually a little bit worse. It actually really underestimates Trump. And we see here Arizona, for some reason, has Trump in the lead here, which is strange because Biden did barely win the state. So we may see Republican overestimation according to this pollster, but he's still up by 5.7%. My model, this is the model that differs the most, and maybe it's because the pollsters are not picking up the large Hispanic demographics. That may be something that we're looking into as of right now. And we see Donald Trump leads by about 3 points. And for those who say, oh, he lost support from the conviction, well, no, not really. A lot of RFK supporters have actually switched to Donald Trump because of the conviction. And we actually see a pretty direct correlation. Right after the conviction, you see Kennedy's polling numbers kind of dipped and Trump's went back up, and Biden's stabilized and they're actually going back down. He's now polling below 39% again. And we're almost 2 weeks out from the conviction, and Trump's lead is bigger than what it was before. So you could say, well, maybe it wasn't a huge boost, but it definitely did benefit him 100% as of right now. All of the accredited pollsters from RCP have Trump leading by a bigger amount. The Economist slash YouGov poll, if we go all the way to mid, May, we see that he led by 1 point. Now he leads by 2. If we look at Emerson College, we see Trump led by 5 in the end of May. Now here, Donald Trump leads by 6 percentage points in the 5-way race. Rasmussen has him up by 5. If we go to their last poll, they did have him up by about 12. So that is a pretty weird discrepancy there. But when you really look at most polling data, you actually see Donald Trump is in fact ahead by quite a significant amount in most of the polls and has improved in most of his results. We even see, for example, if we go back to Emerson, if we go all the way back to mid-April, we see Trump was only up by 4 in this pollster. And so once these, smaller leads get out of the aggregate, you're going to see Donald Trump climb up in the polling aggregate once again. And he may even be able to start contesting states like New Jersey and even Colorado to an extent. I only have him winning Colorado by 3.9, Illinois a 4.5 percentage point win, and New Jersey's around a 3.3 win. He wins New Mexico by 3.5, New Hampshire by 2, Virginia by 1.5. So we're seeing a lopsided victory for him so far. Again, this is according to data and the analysis I have done. As the days and the weeks go on, if data changes, the model will essentially reflect that, and my forecasts will change because of that. And so that is it for this video. Make sure to go ahead and hit the like button, subscribe to the channel, and make sure to go ahead and follow the Twitter as well as join the Discord server in the description down below. And I will see you guys very, very soon.